Hey, good morning. How are you? I hope you're all well. Um, in my last podcast, I talked about what went wrong, and it really was about the company that I chose was not really in a position to increase their capacity to take on more business than they already had. And that's really what went wrong. And I promised that I would be in search of a new company to do this experiment with, because this experiment is very important to me. There's a big problem in the integrity of the digital marketing world, in that I have a friend. He has an interest in a ski resort in a different country, and they do digital marketing with their local digital marketing guys in that country. And he showed me the results of the digital marketing. He said to me, he says, if I look at these results, I should be booked out every single day from here to next Christmas. And he says, it's not quite like that. And I looked at what he'd been presented with, and it was a massive figure. Every quarter, I think they do it, massive figure, but I don't know, 50,000 people. 50,000 impressions. Now, what does 50,000 impressions mean? It means that 50,000 people have seen the ad. And then it goes on to say how many of those 50,000 people have clicked through to his website. That's obviously people who say, okay, that's interesting, and they click through to that website. What's lacking there is how many of those people that clicked through the website actually made a booking. And that's where I think digital marketing can fall down. And that's why I say the integrity is kind of under scrupule, what's it called? Under suspicion, let's call it that. Because what we're interested in is not impressions. What we're interested in is not how many people clicked through. What we're interested in is how many people made bookings. And it is possible in the digital area to track that. It's actually really easy. This particular business decides not to track it. And because they're not tracking it, they're not really giving an accurate picture of what his digital marketing expend is doing, his ad spend. And it's disappointing that there are businesses out there that are doing that, because it's so easy to rectify. So my whole thing about this podcast and about what I'm doing is to dispel all that kind of mystique. You know, if you cannot get someone to buy from your digital marketing effort, you've failed. A lot of companies out there are spending a lot of money on digital marketing which doesn't produce. Having said that, I do digital marketing for a company, and we've been digital marketing for about 8 months now, which is great, and I've produced very little return for them. But they're staying with me because two reasons. One is because I do produce very engaging adverts. I use a lot of cartoon and video, which is quite engaging. They enjoy the video, so they assume that their customers will as well. And then the other is that they know that if they allow me to continue in my marketing efforts, eventually I will start to understand their customers better and better, which means that I will eventually start producing results. And I'm totally in awe of them for being that forward thinking, but they do think that way. The other thing which is important to take note of in digital marketing is that there are ways that you can turn those page views that you've had, your website visits, into more likely, more warmer customers, people who might buy. And the reason is that because they've clicked on your website, so they've obviously got some sort of interest. be it vague at the time. And what they're going to need is a kind of reminder that that was interesting to them previously. And if you do that, is what they call in Facebook terms retargeting. So once you've had your 9,000 impressions and you got your 450 views or whatever it is, those 450 views are people who are genuinely interested in your offer of what it is that you're presenting. So it makes sense that if we remind them on a sort of regular basis that that is what they wanted, or that they were interested in that, there's a possibility of those guys, those 500, converting. The other thing which Facebook has is a thing called a lookalike audience. So what you can do is you can say, right, those 500 people that visited my site, I want you to target them again. And then I want you to go out and find other people who are similar in their interests and have the probability that they will have a similar disposition towards your product. I want you to try and find those guys. So your 500 now might become 1,000, or it might become 1,500 because they've found an extra 1,000 people who are in that same market, that same mindset. So the thing about digital marketing is it's a long-term project. It's not something you do for a short while and say, it didn't work, and can it? But what you do need to know is that, like my friend with the ski resort, is that retargeting is being considered and done, because that's where the gold is. That's where your warm audience is, and that's where people who are receptive to your product are going to be. Don't be fooled by 9 million impressions. Don't be fooled by click-throughs of 5,000 people to your website. That's not what it's about. It's about those people on your website being reminded that they went to your website, and then people who are like-minded of those people are being targeted. And when you get to that point, and only when you get to that point, will you probably see some results. I've been quite long-winded today, but what I want to deal with is that this question about does digital marketing work? I'm still searching for that answer. I'm still searching for success on that view. When I get the answer, I'm going to share it with you. It will be shared in the most blatant of terms. I will show you that these people have spent X amount of money and they've got X amount return, which was poor, or X amount of return, which was excellent or good. But there will be no mincing of words. If it's not working, I'm going to expose it. So that's my story for this week. Check into next week, because next week I hope to have found a small business guinea pig that I can play with and hopefully bring you some answers lost.